Question 15. Two small magnets attract each other with a force F newtons. F is inversely proportional to the square of the distance d between them. When d equals 2, F equals 12. Express F in terms of d. Well, based on that proportionality statement, F varies inversely with the square of the distance. Or you can cut to the chase and say, well, I know the formula is going to be F equals a scale factor k over d squared. So that's what our formula is going to look like. The pieces of information that we've been given here now, we use to sub in to figure out what our k value is. So subbing them in, we're going to have 12 for F, k we're about to figure out, 2 for d and it's squared, which then becomes 12 equals k over 4, which if we multiply both sides by 4 ends up with k is 48. Now what we need to do is quote our formula, except we know what k is now. So F equals 48 over d squared. Part B, calculate the value of F when d is 5. Well, we just use our formula. Plug d as 5, or substitute 5 in for d. Nope, that's not doing it at all. Substitute 5 in for d like so, and then let the calculator do the work. You get 1.92 newtons technically. Next part, calculate the value of d when F is 3. Well, same again, we're going to use the formula, except the number we have is being plugged in a different place. So 3 is F, d is unknown. We don't want our letters on the bottom of a fraction when we're trying to solve it, so the first step here is to multiply both sides by d squared so that we get rid of this fraction. What will happen is that d squared then appears on the left hand side instead, so 3d squared equals 48. Now we're going to divide both sides by 3 to get d squared on its own, and then we are going to square root both sides to get d, which will end up becoming 4. Technically you get a negative 4 as well, but because of the fact that this is these practical questions that you get involving real-life measurements, a negative force is not something that you're going to be encountering at this level, so we can ignore the negative length. It's the same way that you would ignore the negative when you do the square root at the end of a Pythagoras question. Like, you get two numbers technically when you square root it, but you can't have a minus length, therefore we ignore it instinctively. Anyway, d is 4, the end, done.